Hello people, how you guys doing? I'm your host Vivek Desai and I welcome you to my Ingenious Lab. Again. In this film, we shall be talking about the mechanism of load transfer in structural engineering in a very different way, where we shall be talking about how the bungalows, different multi-story buildings and other mega structures are made to absorb a good heavy load. The types of load in load transfer mechanism, the history of different load bearing structures, the interview by the experts, the explanation by our very own Chatur and Virus and much more. And it's gonna be fun. So now, let's enter into the world of engineering. So now let's talk about the load transfer mechanism. Well, it's a manner in which the load is transferred through a structure. The building essentially consists of a superstructure and a substructure. This is the superstructure and this is the substructure or the foundation which lies below the ground. So now let's see what our Chatur has to say about it. Arey Virus! Virus? Chatur? Virus? Let's check out. Hello friends. So you've been missing me lately, huh? Okay, so now let's not waste our time. Let's get started. Well, our ancestors found shelter in caves millions of years ago. And around 10,000 BC, some kind of men began constructing houses with roofs supported by the beams. The understanding of mechanics of structure evolved with time and civilizations. Soon the Egyptians built pyramids, Greeks built temples, and the Chinese built the Great Wall of China. French built the Eiffel Tower, and now the Arabs who have built the Burj Khalifa towering 830 meters. And last but not the least, our own Shah Jahan who built the Taj Mahal. Oh, this history, I tell you, इतने सालों से चलती आ रही है ये mechanics. Egyptians, Urbans, Greeks, and now Indians. Relax, Chatur, relax. Anyways, the superstructure is designed to transmit various loads such as wind load, snow load, live load, dead load to the foundations. Well, these are the example of live, dead, snow and wind load.
Where the live loads are the movable bodies and they are always estimated and estimated more at the places like commercial buildings than at the residential building, whereas dead loads are fixed bodies. The finest example of a dead load is a tree.
Any structure is designed by an engineer to safely withstand certain design loads. These design loads are dead load, live load, wind load, earthquake load, snow load, temperature effects, etc. Indian Standard Code IS 875 Part 2 classifies the buildings into various categories and gives the imposed loads to be considered for each category. So basically, if the actual load imposed on the building exceeds the load estimated while designing, the structure may fail. Say for example, if one transforms an apartment building in an industrial purpose, it may affect the stability of whole structure in the long run. Coming back to foundations, the job of the foundation is to receive these loads and transfer it to the soil below. The soil has a bearing capacity or load per unit area, above which it will fail. This is, the ground may undergo subsidence or heaving. The job of the foundation is to make sure that the pressure extracted on the soil stratum is well beyond its bearing capacity.
20th century saw the birth of modern geotechnical engineering after a succession of catastrophes which include railway slides in Sweden, slope failure in Parana canals, numerous dam failures and foundation settlement of large structures and
the pioneers like Charles Coulomb, William Racconey, Albert Utterberg and Carl Tisagi paved the way for the rational understanding of soil mechanics. Now, any major project involves a thorough study of substratum and meticulous foundation design.
Exactly.
The superstructure and a substructure in turn consist of several structural elements like beams, columns, slabs, etc. which are assembled or built together. Now each element has its own behavior to various loads configurations.
A tree represents the load transfer mechanism similar to the buildings. A bird perched on the thinnest of the branch and a person standing at the tip of the balcony represent the same load. The tree branch bends heavily, but the balcony doesn't. Both have the bending moment created and shear transfer. Both transfer the load to the heavier branch and the heavier beam, and finally to the column, again through shear mechanism. The only difference is the tree bends a lot and the building doesn't bend at all, or it doesn't deflect at all. The column and the trunk represent the final transfer of all the forces on the building or on the tree by all the goods and all the other limb load to the successful transfer through roots to the soil. Same way, we have got the buildings transferring the load to the soil through its foundations.
So now let's talk about axial load transfer. The axis is an imaginary line passing through elements longitudinal direction through the center. The load in the same direction as axis is axial load. For example, the rope game, lift, the human carrying a heavy load onto his head, the umbrella in the wind, and what if somebody uses as a walking stick? It will be in compression. Similar to these columns, structures are designed to take axial compressive loads. Piles in the foundation are also designed for the axial load transfer. And members like tie member, cable in cable stayed bridges are designed to take axial loads. Well, if the piston of an axial load on a column is not exactly at the center of its cross-sectional area, then it's called eccentrically loaded. Now let's talk about flexural loading. Members subject to flexure are loaded perpendicular to their axis and they tend to bend. A beam is a structural element that is capable of withstanding the load primarily by resisting bending. The bending force induced to the material of beam as a result of external load, own weight, span, and external reactions to those loads are called bending moment. For example, here's a wooden stick. The stick breaks because the shear resistance offered by the glued surface was not adequate to support the applied load. Earlier, the surface had the same material as other parts of the stick and the surface had a bond from either sides. Shear force is another important parameter which affects the design of beams. In simple words, it is the force that causes part of the material to slide past one another in opposite direction. A slab is a horizontal element similar to beams but has the depth much less than the other dimension. Their job is to receive the live load directly and transfer to the beams. The flexural behavior will change as the geometry of the slab changes. If a slab is of 5 meter into 5 meter, then it is a square and bends in both directions, and hence it is called two-way slab. Whereas a slab is of 5 meter into 10 meter, then it is a rectangle slab, which bends mostly in a longer direction. These slabs are called two-way slabs, and the slabs can be cast in any desired shape. So now, let's talk about the arches. An arch is a pure compression form. It can span a large area, resolving forces into compressive stresses, in turn eliminating tensile stresses. This is sometimes referred as arch action. As the forces in the arch are carried to the ground, the arch will push outward at the base, called thrust. In order to maintain the arch action and prevent the arches from collapsing, the thrust need to be restrained either with the internal ties or by the external bracing such as abutments. So now let's see what the experts have to say about it.
from prehistoric times till 17th century, when there was neither steel nor concrete, the only way to transfer load from top was through caves and tunnels formed through arches. The typical shape of the caves and the tunnels made it look simple that the heavy load of the mountains above it would smoothly transfer the load to its base. Same arch shape was exploited in recent times by the engineers to create large span bridges with heavy loads and acting only in axial compression and somewhat shear force. Bending was either zero or minimum based on its typical funicular shape.
Domes are similar to the arches in their action and can help them span large open spaces without intermediate support.
Were the first to exploit the advantages of the arches in structure. The Neolithic man was known for how he made his domes using the mammoth bone and fur. Domes form an integral part of Roman, Byzantine, Chinese, Persian as well as Mughal architecture. Arches are also modified by using hinds to compensate for the expansion as well as contraction due to the environmental conditions.
Foundation or substructure of the building safely transfers all the load of the superstructure to the underlying soil stratum. The soil has a bearing capacity, the maximum applicable pressure above which it will fail. Foundations may also subside into the soil below. Thus, the foundation design is carefully done after studying the characteristics of the soil below in such a way that the pressure applied on the soil is well above the bearing capacity and settlements are done within permissible limits. Sometimes when the soil just below the building is weak, deep foundations are used to bypass weak layers and transfer loads to a firm stratum below it. Deep foundation includes piles, piers, wells, etc.
Generally, if we see that every country is having its own environmental conditions, it's having different construction technology, it's having different materials and quality of materials, which gives us an idea about the design of the codes.
So guys, I hope you have learned so many things from the lab. That's all for the day. I'm your host Vivek Desai signing off. Have a good one.